Hi, in this video I will explain how to describe charts, graphs, and diagrams in the presentation. How to describe diagrams and other visuals. Naming the parts. To describe diagrams or any other type of graphs as clearly as possible, you should name each visual element. For example, the vertical axis shows, the horizontal axis represents. This curve illustrates. The solid line shows. The shaded area describes. This colored segment is for. The red bar. Okay, now how to describe bar graphs. Bar graphs transform the data into spirit bars or columns. Generally, this type of visuals have categories on the x-axis and the numbers on the y-axis, so you can compare statistical data between different groups. The bar graphs show which category is the largest and which is the smallest one. Each group should be independent so that the changes in one do not influence others. The bars or columns can be drawn either vertically or horizontally, as it doesn't make any difference. The words used to describe bar chart are pretty similar to ones used for the line charts. Let's have a look at the exam questions to IELTS writing test, as each one of the major English language tests for non-native English speakers in the world. Exam questions. The bar chart below shows the number of men and women studying engineering at Australian universities. Summarize the information in the chart by selecting and reporting the main features. Make comparisons where relevant. And here is an excellent example of writing about bar graphs prepared by the British Council as an answer to these exam questions. You can also use the following vocabulary to talk about bar charts used in your presentation. The bar chart illustrates the number of men and women studying engineering at Australian universities between the years 1992 and 2012 at 10-year intervals. It can be seen that the number of male students fell slightly from 14,000 in 1992 to 12,000 in 2002, and then remained at level through the following decade. The number of female students is relatively low, starting at 2,000 in 1992. However, while the number of men decreased, the number of women increased. Female students grew steadily by 2000 each decade. This led to a rise in the total number of engineering students from 16,000 to 18,000 in this period. Men continue to make up the majority of students. However, the proportion of female students increased sharply in this period. In 1992, there was one woman to every 7 men, but by 2012 this had narrowed to one woman to every 2 men. Overall, we can see a clear upward trend in the number of female engineering students in Australian universities, while the number of male students seems to have leveled off. And how to describe line graphs. Now, when you know how to describe bar charts, what about line graphs? This type of charts converts information into points on a good relationship between objects, numbers, dates, etc. These lines show movement over time affected by the increase or decrease in the key factors. To express the movement of the line, you should use appropriate verbs, adjectives, and adverbs depending on the kind of action you need to show. For this, you should use the following vocabulary: verbs: rise, increase, grow, go up to, climb, firm, peak, fall, decline, decrease, drop, tip, go down, rigid, level up, remain stable, no change, remain steady, stay constant, stay, maintain the same level, crash, collapse, plunge, plummet. An adjective: sharp, rapid, huge, dramatic, substantial, considerable, significant, slight, small, minimal, massive. And for the verbs: dramatically, rapidly, hugely, massive, sharply, steeply, considerably, substantially, significantly, slightly, minimally, markedly. There is also a list of adverbs to describe the speed of change, such as rapidly, quickly, swiftly, suddenly, steadily, gradually, slowly. To help you understand how you can use these words in your presentation speech, pay attention to the sample of a line chart with the exam questions for IELTS. The graph shows information about technology usage in the UK over time. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features. Make comparisons where relevant. And the appropriate vocabulary below will help you understand how to describe charts. The graph shows the rate at which British people adopted new technology over a 15-year period from 2000 to 2015. The figures are given as percentages of the population. Overall, there was widespread adoption of new technology during these years. Nearly 9 out of 10 people in the UK were online by 2015. The figures for having broadband in the home, ownership of a smartphone, and use of social media platforms were all high here too, at around 70 to 80%, and nearly half the population own a tablet. The only exception to this is smartwatch ownership, which remained comparatively low at 5%. If we look at the trends over time, we can see that the uptake of new technology increased dramatically in this period. For example, internet usage tripled and social media usage grew strikingly by 78 percentage points. Smartphones and tablets appeared in 2010, and similarly these followed a steep upward trajectory. However, for some products the graph shows that growth slowed down noticeably after an initial surge. Social media usage, for instance, was near zero in 2005 and shot up to 52% in 2010, before climbing more slowly to 80% in 2015. Also, broadband subscriptions rose steadily by 30 percentage points every 5 years to 2010, but by a modest 4 percentage points after then. In contrast, the newer technologies such as tablets showed no sign of leveling off. Ownership of all the technologies was increasing. It will be interesting to see when it peaks. Now, how to describe pie charts. The pie chart is primarily used to illustrate how different parts make up a whole. The best way to present your data in pie chart is to compare the categories with each other. The following comparisons, which can be used interchangeably: to compare, compared to, as opposed to, versus, more than, the majority of, only a small monetary, greater than, less than. Here we have an example of pie chart that represents how Internet users age 16 plus prefer to browse the web. The examples demonstrate the best way to summarize data by selecting and reporting the main features. This graph shows the result of a survey in which people aged 16 and above were asked about their preferred devices for accessing the Internet. The question referred to going online at home and in other places. Participants mentioned four main devices in their answers: a smartphone, a laptop, a tablet, and a desktop computer. From the pie chart, it is clear that the majority of participants prefer to use smartphones and laptops, with just 3% difference between the two. Nearly a third of participants prefer to go online with a smartphone. 30% like to use a laptop. A desktop computer accounts for 14% of users' preferred devices. Only a small minority prefer a device other than these main four. In conclusion, since mobile and portable devices are the most popular choices, it is clear that many participants are accessing the Internet outside their homes. The desktop computer is the least popular of the four main devices. In future, we can probably expect to see more and more people accessing the Internet with smartphones as their preferred choice.